Hi, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on preparing for the 2021 postal rate changes. We really appreciate you being here today, and we hope over the next half hour, 45 minutes, we're able to share some ideas, information, and tips to help you be fully prepared to implement the rate changes. Now, my name is Mark Fallon. I'm the president of the Berkshire company. And initially, I was supposed to be presenting this with my team. And I do want to share the members of my team, Wendy Thomas, who's my senior consultant, and Lois Ritterossi, who's the president of High Rock Strategies. Unfortunately, personal commitments have not allowed Wendy and Lois to be here today. But I really wanted to point out that developing presentations like this is not a solo effort, it's a team effort. So I want to recognize and thank Wendy and Lois for their input on this presentation. So during this presentation, everybody is on mute, but we are recording this webinar, and we will post a link to that recording and send out an email to that, hopefully by the end of the day today. If you have a question, please use the chat box. I have that up on the screen directly below the camera, so I should see any questions that you have. And along with that email with the link to the video will also be the handouts that we're presenting today. And as always, I'm asking that you laugh at my jokes. I know, Mark, you can't hear us. Why do you ask this? Because it's important for me to believe deep down inside that you're laughing at my jokes. And I thought, is there a joke about postal rates? And well, let's put it this way. I think that the best investment you can make is probably a forever stamp because they're self-adhesive. Let's face it, you just can't leak it. So somebody is saying they can't hear. I would like to know if other people can hear what I am saying right now. Could you put in the chat box if you are hearing me? Okay, so yes, people are saying they can hear. So Crystal, I think it may be the speakers you have chosen. In the right-hand corner are there's a little wheel that has the settings, and you want to make sure that that is set to the right speakers. That's the best I can do remotely here. Perhaps your IT department can help, or you may want to use the dial-in number that came with your invitation. So we have a lot to cover today. We're going to talk about the rates going into effect, the division between shipping services, market dominant, talk briefly about the seamless acceptance incentive, the mailing promotions, the PRC ruling that a lot of folks are concerned about, rightfully so, and we will be providing you an implementation checklist. So the rates go into effect on Sunday, January 24th. And the Postal Service made this move more than a decade ago. It's one of the smartest things the Postal Service has ever done. Yes, I know that mail is now 24/7. We work with some service providers that are on this call that they are operational 365 days a year. But for most of us, Sunday is that down day. And that allows you that extra time to get in, test your meters, test your software, make sure that everything is working so that when you get to work on Monday morning, it's good to go. But make sure you mark down that date. It is Sunday, January 24th. Now, the shipping services are also known as the competitive products. That means the Postal Service is able to raise rates outside of the constraints of the CPU, which is the Consumer Price Index. And it's really important to know that they have done that consistently since 2006. We saw this year for the first time a temporary rate increase to deal with the peak surge that was on top of an already surge of packages. So they have a lot more flexibility. What we're going to cover today is really Priority Mail Express and Priority Mail, because for most of the people on this call, these are the two that they will be using the most. So with Priority Mail Express, pretty great slide, isn't it? The flat rate for Priority Mail Express is staying the same. The rates for first class mail, zone 1 mail up to a half a pound is staying the same. Now, many of you have heard of the magic quadrant, right? It was invented by Gartner. You divide something, and usually the upper right-hand side is where you want to be. Well, with Priority Mail Express, it's the upper left-hand side is where you want to be. The lighter that your packages are and the closer that you're sending them, the less expensive and the lower the rate increase. As you get further to the right, in other words, you're sending it further and you go down, it's getting heavier, the rate increase is larger. So if you are somebody that just uses Priority Mail Express for documents that need to be shipped out overnight or small packages that need to be shipped out overnight, you're in good shape because it's a very minimal or non-existent rate increase. First time I've seen this since 2006. Very exciting. So Priority Mail Retail. And this is really important because there's such an increase. And somebody just included a joke. So yes, I am going to interrupt because somebody shared a joke, which is, what did the letter say to the stamp? Stick with me and you'll go places. So again, you can share bad jokes. We will share them as well. But Priority Mail Retail has seen an increase because of the number of small businesses that are sending things out, as well as people who are now working from home. We have had customers that have had to move to Priority Mail. They haven't had the volumes, they didn't have it set up. So their workers from home are using Priority Mail to get documents, signed documents, hard copy documents back into the office. You can see the Postal Service has kept these increases relatively low, ranging from under 2% to around 4%. If you look at their competitors, their increases have been between 4 and 6%. At least those are the published increases. And that doesn't take into account the surcharges that they have put into effect. After the pandemic hit, the Postal Service's largest competitors put in surcharges because of this significant increase in volumes. What's interesting is they have now admitted those surcharges are going to stay permanent. However, they're not making them part of the rates. So it'll be interesting if when the world reopens, if those surcharges are removed, or is that extra profit going to stay with their bottom line? Postal Service doesn't have surcharges, at least for regular delivery, priority mail. So this is still a really good bargain and a really good buy for the small shipper. Now, of course, if you can, you want to get to the commercial base. And if you're looking at the commercial base, this is really important to look at, how you're sending things out and what the increase is going to be. Somebody just asked a question from the previous slide. Can you use click and ship to offset the rate increases? There is a discount for using click and ship. However, those rates also went up. So they are tied to the regular retail rate. So the percentage increase, Frank, is the same. But it is really important. I'm a huge fan of click and ship. No problem admitting that. People who have received anything from me, you get that white label on there. The clerks down at the post office, they know me now. I'm the guy coming in with the Mr. Zip t-shirt and handing them click and ship packages. It's still a great way to ship. So on commercial base, it's a little bit more than click and ship, right? Because now you're adding on the intelligent mail package barcode, you have certain volume commitments, et cetera. So this is very good for medium-sized customers and even larger customers. So the question has come up, has delivery times on priority mail have suffered recently? Any thoughts on when the Postal Service can improve that, or when are they going to improve it? I was directly impacted by this. Sent out priority mail packages a lot for the holidays. It was interesting, depending upon when I entered it, when it got delivered. The pandemic really spiked in certain areas, so that caused issues. I live in the Northeast. We got hit very hard. I had packages that didn't move for 2 weeks. And one of those was going to a veteran friend of mine who was in a veteran rehab facility. So it kind of was something I really wanted to get delivered. The Postal Service is providing regular updates to mailing associations. They have let us know that they are fairly sure that they have cleaned out the backlog and are doing everything they can to get delivery back to normal. Is it back to normal? No. Where are the slowdowns? If you follow the industry alerts, when priority mail or other packages are being sent to other locations, or you're seeing certain locations being embargoed, that's where they're having the highest hit. We could get into a long discussion. It's a little difficult on a webinar to get into all the causes. The two primary drivers were this massive influx of packages. Both UPS and FedEx cut off accepting deliveries. So that further spiked the number of packages the Postal Service was handling. And then COVID reduced the manpower that was available. So you had a bad situation that got worse. So the Postal Service is working their way through that. Let us hope that the government is recognizing Postal Service employees as essential employees and getting them the vaccine first. That's really important. One of the post offices just 2 towns over for me is a hotspot. They lost 4 employees. I live in a small community. 4 employees basically is 3/4 of that post office's staff. So when are we going to get through this? I can't say. What can we do? And it's really keep track, and that when you have issues, use your local postal contacts. Let them know that you're seeing issues. Let them research it. People are working on this, but they need to know when there are problems. So commercial base versus retail, who uses what? Great question. I'm going to read from the Bible here. So, with commercial rate, that means you are using regional rate boxes if you're a click and ship customer, or you're using PC postage products with a qualified PC postage imprint. If you're using permit imprint to do your priority mail, or if you're a priority mail open and distribute customer. And then customers using the IBI, with the intelligent mail package barcode. All of those folks are eligible for commercial base. I hopefully, Ted, that answers your question. So the market dominant products, and this is probably what most people on the call today are here to find about. That's first class mail, USPS marketing mail, the periodicals, package services, and then those extra services. These rates are currently tied to CPIU, which is the Commercial Consumer Price Index, urban products. And it has been that way since 2006. There has been a rate change rule that has been published by the Postal Regulatory Committee, and we will, commission rather, and we will talk about that later in the webinar. But for this year, it's tied to CPI. So first class mail, the retail rates. And I always like to include the retail rates because for many of you, you're the advisor to your family. I have had emails and Facebook messages from family members I haven't heard from for a while, asking me about postage problems because they're using the mail again. So as you can see, for first class, the forever stamp is staying at 55 cents. However, there was an increase in 2-ounce mail. So that has gone up 5 cents, so which is pretty significant. And then postcards went up a penny as well. Now, the commercial mail. mostly lower than CPI. If you look at, again, that single piece is staying the same. Meter mail went up a penny, so that's a 2% increase. And then if you look down the line, anywhere from 2.5, 2.1, 2.3 for pre-sorted mail. But look at that difference, right? If you get down to that 5-digit, you're at 398. So more than 15 cents than that first class retail letter grade. So pre-sort is still the best way to go for commercial mail. It's really important that you find the right partners, find the right software if you're going to be doing it yourself, and find the right equipment. The payback is there for you. USPS marketing mail. Now, USPS marketing mail, this is the high-level version of where the increases are. Marketing mail, your price is determined by how much your piece weighs, how much your bundles weigh, how you prepare it, and where you enter it. It is not as easy as first class mail. Maybe that's why I stayed in first class mail most of my career. And this is why you need to make sure that you are partnering with a print mail service provider who has postal expertise. If you are entering it yourself or you are a print mail service provider, make sure your employees are going beyond webinars like we're sharing today. Make sure that they are reading through Notice 1, 2, 3, that they can explain the differences to you and to your customers. You want to make sure you're giving your customers the best buy for their postage dollars. Periodicals, it's interesting, this slide doesn't change much year to year. Periodicals entered outside the county, you're seeing about a 1.5% increase, inside about 1.2. And unfortunately, the smaller, low volume pubs are probably seeing a larger than average increase. However, even the large circulation publications, their increases may range from very small, 0.5% to 6%. Again, it goes to how are you preparing the mail and where are you entering it? It's so important for the people in periodicals out there that you find the right partners, whether that be logistic partners or publishing partners. This is a challenging area for the Postal Service. It's a challenging area for the publishers, and it's a challenging area for the periodical owners. Don't see an easy solution in sight, and hopefully we will see more in 2021. So the extra services that you may be using. Overall, a small increase, about 1.4%. PO boxes, less than 1%. Certified mail, slightly more, 1.41, and return receipt, 0.91. What other services are you using? What I always find interesting, and we put it on the slide every year, is the address correction service increase, right, of 2.29%. Why aren't you using a full service intelligent mail barcode and then you get electronic ACS for free? So it's really important when you look at the services that you're using, ask the question, why are we using this service? Is there an alternative? The certificate of mailing, 2.76% increase on the prices. Could you move to just providing the mail.dat instead of a certificate of mailing? Is there a legal requirement, and has that legal requirement changed? Believe it or not, legislatures around the country, state legislatures, are recognizing that with full service intelligent mail and mail.dats, you actually get better information than a certificate of mailing. And they are making changes to laws to allow you to use that as proof of mailing. So make sure you know what you're mailing and why you're using the class that you're using. A lot of money that can be saved in this area. So the seamless acceptance incentive. The Postal Service has been pushing seamless acceptance for years. They have really improved the process for going through. Sorry, just there's a question here. How many states are using IMB instead of certificate of mailing? That has changed. I'm aware of 3. I know that I believe it's Arizona. I know Arizona is one of them, Alan, and I apologize, I forget the other 2. I believe there are 3 right now that I know that the legislatures have passed that. The property and casualty insurance companies that we work with track this. I will say a lot of them are a little bit skittish yet because we haven't seen any court cases agreeing that the IMB and mail.dat is the same. So right now I know that it's around 3. That's a small number, but perhaps we can push more. So back to seamless acceptance. So there are already existing incentive discounts if you use a full service intelligent mail barcode. You receive 0.3% discount for, or an incentive rather, not a discount, for first class and USPS marketing mail, and 0.1% for BPM flats and periodicals. This has been a success story for the Postal Service. By offering this additional incentive, more people move towards full service IMB, which is good for us. It's good for the industry. It's good for the Postal Service. Now we need to get more people to move to seamless acceptance. So the Postal Service is adding an additional incentive of 0.1 cent if you submit the mail through seamless acceptance. What's important to recognize is that the incentive is given to the mailer, not the mail owner, the mailer. So whoever is presenting the mail, whoever is doing the work to get to seamless acceptance, they're the ones who receive the incentive. And that's really important to understand. So if you're a mailer, your rates may not go down, but the mail service provider or the pre-sort house that you use is now going to get an incentive to make sure that they're using seamless acceptance. You know, seamless acceptance is one of those win-win opportunities for the mailing industry. The Postal Service needs fewer people on the docks. They need fewer people doing implants, right? That they can free up a lot of labor by us using seamless acceptance. And from the mailer side, it is IT driven. It's not paper driven. It allows the mailer to better track what they're doing. However, there is a cost to that. Postal Service recognizes that and is now providing this additional incentive, which can be really large depending upon the number of pieces you use. When you say 0.1 cent, it doesn't sound like much. Multiply it by 1 million, it starts to add up. Now, the postage statements, it's really important to recognize. I just talked about seamless and not using paper, but all of the major statements have to get updated when the rates change. Now, a lot of these are electronic, but you need to make sure that whether it's your physical library or your electronic library is updated with the right form and with the right statement that has the January 24th, 2021 rates in them. So take the time, go through this list. Any of these that you use, whether it's electronic or whether it's paper, make sure that you take the time to make sure that your library is updated. Promotions. Why aren't you using them? Right now, a lot of people say, well, it doesn't apply to us. I look at the bottom one there, informed delivery. I think everybody can find a way to use informed delivery. I was fortunately one of the early signups for it. I have loved my informed delivery as a mail recipient, and I have seen customers have great success using informed delivery. Now, all of the rest, tactile, sensory, emerging and advanced technology, earned value reply, what are you using, right? Again, I go back to the different rates that you're using. How are you having your customers talk to you? Personalized color trans promo and then mobile shopping. How can you find a way to integrate these with your mailing? And it's really important. This is a great opportunity. In some of these promotions, you can potentially save everything that you're losing to the postage rate increase. And I do want to point out that registration has already started for the tactile, sensory, and interactive engagement. And with inkjet, with some of the amazing color printers out there, there's many different ways that you can take advantage of this promotion as well as the color trans promo promotion. There are more opportunities out there. So somebody on LinkedIn asked me the question is, do I believe that there will be a second rate increase in 2021? And I went out on a limb and I said, no, I don't think there will be. Now, the reason for them asking the question was the Postal Regulatory Commission issued order number 5763 on November 30th of last year. And then it was published on December 15th, which means tomorrow, January 15th, the new rate making rules go into effect. Now, what does that mean to everybody that's on the call? I just talked about market dominant rates being tied to the CPI. With the new rate making rules, the Postal Service will be given additional authority, especially as it ties to mail density and payments due to retirement calculations. So these are two areas where the PRC has ruled the Postal Service has no control over. Every year, mail volumes decrease. Even before the pandemic, every year, mail volumes decrease. However, every year, there are approximately 1 million new addresses added in the United States. So that may be new homes, new apartment buildings, new businesses, but 1 million new addresses every year. So you have delivery points going up and you have mail volumes going down, which means the mail density, the number of pieces being delivered per mailing point, is decreasing every year. The Postal Service, through promotions, through incentives, is doing what it can to make it easier to mail or to make it more cost effective, but they don't have direct control over mailing volumes. Mailing volumes are generally tied to the economy and technology. So the Postal Service has been given, through the new rulemaking, the additional authority based upon density. On December 31st, the Postal Service filed their notice, which is mandatory, even if they're going to use the authority for 2022, what the changes in mail density was for 2020. And for 2020, the change in density was 4.5%. So they could use, or that's the authority that they could use, 4.5%. That doesn't mean the Postal Service has to use it, but they had to file it if they plan to use it at any time. And then with the retirement rate authority, retirement is, people are already retired, so the Postal Service can't change, right, how much they're paying into that. Those calculations into whether it's FERS or CSRS or the Retirement Health Benefit Fund, those are all determined either by legislation or OMB. So again, out of the Postal Service's control. They do not get an additional authority based on the calculations that they submitted on the 31st. So with they have that additional authority, why am I saying today that I don't believe there will be a second rate increase? Now, I can be wrong. I have been wrong before. I think yesterday I was wrong about something. There have been three, actually, as of this morning, 4 separate filings with the appeals court in Washington to review the Postal Regulatory Commission's order. Now, what's interesting is one of the filers is the United States Postal Service. United States Postal Service feels that that the PRC didn't go far enough, while the other filers feel that the PRC has gone too far. So as the Postal Service themselves have filed with the appeals court, I don't believe that until the court makes a ruling that there will be any rate increase. The PRC has until March 31st to finish the review of the numbers that the Postal Service submitted on December 31st. So there's nothing that can happen until then. And there's a lot that can change between now and March 31st. The Postal Service, the leadership, the Board of Governors, they're the ones that will make this decision. There's a chance now that there may be legislation to help reform the Postal Service. We already saw that under the new act that was published, the Coronavirus Relief Act, that they received $10 billion to help offset the additional expenses due to the pandemic. So the Postal Service is in a good position going into this calendar year. What exactly that they do going forward is up to the leadership. It is up to the Board of Governors. However, based upon what I think is good sense for the mailing industry, based on the fact there's 3 different cases in front of the appeals court right now, I think we can feel fairly confident that there will not be a second increase in 2021. I know there are people out there who disagree with me. I hope I'm right, and I hope they're wrong. And there's no comments, so that's pretty good there. Now, I know from looking at the names of the attendees, I scrolled through before I started, that there's some people here that were on our December webinar on checklists, simple and powerful tools. So if you were on that webinar, you know that of course I'm going to share a checklist for you to use. If you weren't on that webinar, I don't know what to say. I invite you to review the recording. It's up online, and also download the handouts. They're available on our website. But so here's your checklist for implementing the rates. If you haven't already sent out a notice to your customers, that's your internal customers and your external customers, you need to make sure you do that now. Explain how that will impact their budget, and explain anything you plan to do to lessen the impact of the rate increase. And remember, we included the retail rates here, and I talked about people maybe reaching out to you. This is a great opportunity to remind people that you are their mailing expert. Maybe include something separate just on retail for them to use for their personal mail. Why not be that extra benefit that you have for them? If you haven't met with your local representatives to make sure that if there are any other changes that you need to do, you should do that now. You want to make sure that you're meeting, whether it's virtual, whether it's through email, with your software vendors. What's the dates for the release, and what is the testing plan that you can have to implement that? And then make sure you're meeting with all of your employees, right? Provide training on what the new rates are, provide training on what the new forms are, and then look at the schedule with them on how you're going to implement this change. Now, on the end of day, either January 22nd or 23rd, I don't know why I picked the 21st. Maybe I'm taking a short week and taking off Thursday instead of Friday. That should be January 22nd or 23rd. That's when, if you can, to upload all the dates for the meters in the software. You want to test them. You want to post reminders everywhere at the end of the day so you don't forget about doing it later. And then remember, I talked about replacing all of those forms, paper or electronic. When you start the day, whether that is on Sunday because you're a 7-day-a-week operation, or on Monday, send out that other announcement. Remind everybody, today's the day that the changes. I know that everybody on this call has a daily huddle, right? Because you're all great mailers. Part of your daily huddle, set the notes now to remind everybody in your mail center, today's the day the rates go out. Test everything again. I know I had you test them on Friday and Saturday. Test them after the go live date. Please make sure you do that. You'll never regret conducting an extra test. And then throughout the day, all of your quality control checks, we know they're really good. Double check, right? Go around yourself. Walk through the mail center. Make sure that the right postage amounts are on. If you're a permit imprint person, make sure that the forms are correct. Make sure that the calculations are correct. Whatever you can do, take that extra step and do just a little bit more. So the Postal Service, I think, is one of the best, some of the best websites out there to help you implement this change. The first one is Postal Explorer, a simple, easy to use, and let's face it, my favorite website on the internet. It really is. On Postal Explorer, the new rates are already up. The new Form 123 as a PDF is already available. Back 100 years ago when I started it, we called it a rate fold. Now it's over 100 pages long, so we can't be folding that. But you can already go up there and download that and be prepared. On Postal Pro, I highly recommend that you double check and make sure you're looking at all of the industry alerts. An industry alert came out yesterday that next week, on Tuesday, the 19th, and on Thursday, the 21st, the Postal Service is having open calls if you still have questions about implementing the rate change. So this is your opportunity to talk directly to the Postal Service. Key point, these are open calls, so anything you ask is going to be heard by everybody else on the call. But if you have questions, this is a great resource for you. Also on Postal Pro are links to webinars that have been put on by the Postal Service and links that have been put on for the Postal Service through the Postal Customer Council. Make sure you're subscribed to the Federal Register notices. Make sure that you have sent and are subscribing to the DMM advisory and the PCC Insider. I've included the email addresses here for you. You know, the DMM advisory is where I get a lot of information that I'm able to share with my customers right away. You should have that same email notification coming to you. 100 years ago, the DMM was a paper book that we got issued once a year. Now it's electronic, it's changing all the time. Somebody has included another tip. Check your production schedules to see where one may be late, since mail owners could be pulling up their schedules to beat the increase. So what this person is talking about is people may give you a lot more mail on Friday or on Saturday because they want it put in before the rates go up. That's why you want to communicate with your customers early to make sure everybody knows when the mail is going to go out and you know what volumes to expect. And lastly, I wouldn't be doing my job as part of the PCC Advisory Committee if I didn't promote a great resource called PCC Voice. If you're on LinkedIn, please check out the PCC Voice. It's a place where Postal Customer Council members can share ideas about PCCs or even about issues like this. Today, we have a conversation going about the new love stamp. Beginning of the year, the first stamp being released is the love stamp. So what's your favorite? There's a conversation going on right now on LinkedIn. You're saying, is that really important? Yeah, because we work in mail, folks, right? We need to have a sense of humor and we need to love what we do. I love mail and I hope you do too. Now, to continue to be successful, the first thing I want to stress is you must know your mail. You must know the content because that determines the class. You must know the characteristics because the shapes impact your pricing. Then you know to know both your categories and your quantity. You need to know your mail. You should be checking volumes daily. You should be checking, you know, why are people mailing a certain way? Where are they mailing? When are they mailing? You know, as Frank put in the comments there, are they trying to sneak something in? It's really important that you know it, and you need to be looking at it regularly. You should be sitting down with your team on a weekly basis, looking back and looking forward, and then again monthly, and then again quarterly. You need to be consistently looking at your mail and see, are there any trends? And can you take those trends and use them to the benefit of your operation and use them to the benefit of your customers? And of course, the Postal Service. It's called the USPS. It begins with you. You have to reach out to them. Take advantage of the Postal Service. Most of you know this, I'm the son of a postal clerk. I have always had respect for the men and women of the Postal Service, and in this past year, I have garnered even more. They have been on the front lines, delivering every day. That's right, 7 days a week throughout this. Now, many of you are on the front lines too. Your employees in your states have been determined essential employees. For many of my customers who run corporate mail centers, the mail center employees are the only people in the building, and they're showing up every day. So you're essential. You're essential to the success of the mail service. And the Postal Service is essential to the success of us in the mailing industry. So it's important that we work together, especially at times of change like this. And that's the way all of us will be successful. Are there any additional questions? Additional answers? Any other bad jokes? Do you want to know why they don't get the flu in ant colonies? Because they're full of little antibodies. No? So Mark, do you still have your, Tim, I don't have the rest of your question. Oh, do I still have my St. Louis Cardinals baseball cap? Tim, Mr. Lee, I moved and I'm not sure that the baseball cap made it with me when I moved. I did keep my autographed photo of the St. Louis Cardinals championship baseball team. So I did keep that, and I did keep my shirt as well. Okay, well, thank you all very much. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. As I said, I will be sending out copies of the webinar. So Dennis Farley, sorry, just one more question. What are your predictions for future rate increase? As I said, I don't believe there will be a second one. I do believe that in August, because remember they've moved it to a 90-day review period now. I do believe in August or September, you will see a rate increase that is above the commercial price, the consumer price index. How far above that depends upon the economy coming back. Is the National Postal Forum still on? So the National Postal Forum, I have reached out to them. They are still working out how they're going to have a forum. It will definitely have a digital format of some type. Whether or not they're able to have an in-person forum remains to be seen. So keep an eye on your inboxes. Make sure you're tied into PCC Voice, because as soon as something is announced, we'll be announcing it for you. So thank you all again, and you'll be receiving an email later today with a link to this video, as well as a link to the handouts. Please be safe and have a great day.